day one of being on board here, the student activity account is extremely confusing to me. I've never, it just makes no sense. I've been distanced on my questions, so I am doing my own research, trying to figure this out. Tonight's questions really doesn't help me any farther. It brings up more.
Okay, all right. I was just gonna say, I'm gonna jump in.
Well, I'd like to finish first. I'm
No,
trying to explain why I'm not gonna pass the.
No, you don't have to explain.
Okay.
Okay, we're done with that. You need to go, if you have questions when you get your packet,
Mhm.
you need to contact the district office before this meeting.
I have done that.
Because we are not gonna continue meeting after meeting to take up this time.
To
okay?
ask questions on.
You need to ask the district office before we get to the
That
meeting.
brings up a
Okay.
good point.
Okay, now, we're going on.
Okay,
All
fair
right.
enough, so.
Anybody else have any questions about the student activity accounts?
Think not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, we have a motion on the table, and we are going to have a vote.
I got a
I'm gonna call
question.
for question. I'm gonna call for
Be
question.
involved?
I'm gonna call for question. So, all in favor of passing the warrants as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Aye.
All right, we've had enough of this for tonight. If you want to know something about what's the information in your board packet, it's your responsibility as a board member to contact the district office before this meeting. We
Thank
don't
you.
have all
That'll
night to
come
go
up-
on.
That'll come up later,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to set meeting dates for upcoming meetings. So regular board meeting would be on December 10th at 7 o'clock. Anybody have any conflict with that? Okay. All right, now, I just want to be sure that everybody got the notice that we're going to have a special board meeting this Thursday at 6:30 to start our strategic planning and development process with Montana School Boards Association. I would like to have community members to come in and listen on that. I need administrators to be here. I realize you guys are having back-to-school night, or not back-to-school night, but parent-teacher conferences until 7. But I'd like to see you here after that, because this is your chance to find out how we're gonna plan what's going on at Florence Carlton School. And I'm sorry for the short notice on that. We've got people coming from Montana School Boards Association in Helena to make this presentation. So this will be the first of several planning meetings, and we're gonna go from there. The plan is to be here in the district office in the conference room here at 6:30, and if we get such a crowd, we'll move across the street. So, anybody have any conflict with that?
Is there a discussion, was the question, did everybody receive notice on that? Is that this Thursday's board meeting?
That's this Thursday's board meeting, yes.
Is that open to discussion?
You can certainly talk if you'd like.
Okay, well, I'd like to answer that question. I did receive notice of that last night it was hand delivered to my house by I believe it's, Mrs. Warella, is that correct?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I believe that is because she called me, and my question is why it was hand delivered to my house, where could it not have been transmitted in a different way? She walked into my house and hand delivered that without me being there, and then called me and notified me that she did that. It was kind of odd to me. Is it not easier to transmit that to me via email? Does it have to be hand delivered?
We try to hand deliver when we do not get them into the mail.
The agenda, the date on it shows November 9th.
Correct, which was Saturday, as to when it was created and started. the
Who
posting.
created that on Saturday?
I did,
You did?
correct.
So,
Because on Friday, I did not make it into the packet, and I realized we did not make it into the packet with the other agenda. So I created it on Saturday
okay.
to get it out, and I realized Monday was Veterans Day, so we needed to get the 48 hours in advance notice to the trustees.
So you hand delivered?
And I hand delivered.
There you go. Thank you for that.
Okay, so we'll see everybody here then. All right, so now we are at that portion of the meeting where we have, where we take public comment. Please be advised that if you would like to have to speak, you need to come to the podium, give your name. Keep in mind that we do not discuss personnel issues. We do not discuss agenda items. And everyone will have a chance to speak for 3 minutes or less. And you get to talk one time.
Kevin O'Brien. I was going to ask a question about a check out of the student activity account. It's no longer on the agenda. For the Montana Club for $123 that was for meals for over a year ago at some state event. It seems quite a long time to finally get them a check this month.
If you'd like to have that
It's
question
public
answered.
comment that-
I know, you certainly can. If you'd like to have that question specifically answered,
No.
since that we don't reply to you, you may come to the
Well-
district office and find out.
Well, in my public
So please
comment.
move on.
In my public comment portion, I was wondering why meals would have been taking so long to pay for, and did that money come out of the Title IX account?
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Jay Dixon's my name. One of the core fundamentals of good leadership is establishing and maintaining hiring practices that seek out the best candidates to educate our kids. Healthy schools are routinely grounded in their leadership fundamentals. Due diligence, decency, and due process, for example, should guide the hiring process. What is more important than hiring the best possible people to work with our kids? There was a position, 2 qualified candidates at Florence, and Mr. McGee did not check references, and the board chair is even quoted as saying, "We do not have to check references." No, you don't have to check references. But healthy schools are grounded in decency and due process, always check references of qualified candidates. It's a matter of respect for the candidate and for the future colleagues. Similarly, healthy schools routinely post all openings. Why are some openings at Florence posted while others are not? Within the last year, there's several positions opened by the board that are not posted. This includes teacher jobs. And there were positions that were not opened by the board at a meeting that were posted. There was even a teacher position open and hired in the same meeting. There's a lot of inconsistencies that I think sends a bad message to parents, kids, and members of this community. Last month's board meeting, I talked about how our school needs to open all positions, including middle school coaching jobs. Mr. McGee said the only posted classified and certified positions. He said it doesn't post those lower positions. Ms. Rhodes said if it's just middle school, that's the reason we don't do it. Then I stated, I would think that you would be trying to get the best candidates you can possibly get to your school, and you would open the position to the public so that there are a lot of people that could see those positions that are qualified to do the great work with kids. My oldest son is approaching middle school. Do you care less about middle school kids than upper school kids? I'd like to ask a direct question to the board chair. Doesn't it make sense to open positions, even if it costs money, or free with bulletin board on campus and on our website to try and get the most candidates that you possibly can in order to seek out the best applicants instead of making some kind of mystery?
You do not respond during public comment.
At this point, I'd like to read District Policy 1441, Number 4. Questions asked by visitors shall, when possible, be answered by the chair or referred to a member of the staff for immediate reply. Questions requiring investigation shall be referred to the superintendent or appropriate committee for later response. Questions requiring board action shall not be deferred for later consideration by the board. Do you not want to follow that district policy with a simple question about trying to get something on the website for postings of positions like most schools in our country do?
I'm going to tell you that I'm not replying other than to say that last month when you brought this up, we said we would look into the policy. We're not done yet, so you're good.
Okay. Thanks for answering that question. Posting all openings on websites is common practice in healthy schools. Most openings are even accompanied by job descriptions. School finance is one of the toughest challenges to schools. Superintendent of the Year, Mr. Klein from Trenchtown, does so well that at the end of the year he gives whatever money left at the end of the general fund back to the state to lower the tax burden to his community members. February of 2012, this board, except Mr. Reynolds and Superintendent McGee, interviewed candidates for the business manager position. We have an over $8 million budget, and there was a candidate with lots of experience that did not get the job, and that candidate was told, "You are overqualified." I don't really understand how that's possible with respect to the difficult task of school financing and trying to hire the best candidate for that position in the school, especially when we have recently spent $15,000 on training for our current manager. I implore each member of this board and Superintendent McGee to hold each other to the highest standards of leadership. The kids, the parents, and this community deserve no less. Thanks.
Anyone else?
My name's Adam Reed. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I've been out of the country for 2 years, so I'm a little behind. But I just want to congratulate Corbett for getting elected to the board.
Hello to board members and the community. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jackie McCann. I've been teaching in Florence in the elementary and middle school for 23 years. I've been a community member for 17 years, a parent in the district for 15 years. Never in all that time have I come to the board with an issue. In the past month, however, an incident has occurred that has compelled me to speak today. So I stand before you as a community member and a parent of my high school daughter. My objective is to make the board aware of this incident and to offer a solution in order to prevent this from happening to any other students, coaches, or parents in the future. The incident has to do with my daughter not being allowed to play in the Frenchtown volleyball game. In short, she did exactly what her coach told her to do, and regardless of that fact, was still punished by not being allowed to play in the game. I don't usually talk here, it's a little nerve-wracking for me. Let's see, on the day of the game, the volleyball students were released from class to go to the bus. My daughter Josie realized she had locked her volleyball uniform in the car and couldn't find her
Mrs.
keys.
McCann, I'm sorry. Are you waiving your right to privacy for your child's issue here?
Oh, sure.
Well, just, you have a question, Mr. Reynolds?
No, I'm confused on the question.
Well, rights of privacy of students supersedes the public's right to know. And this is public comment, and when names are brought up, we have to err on the side of caution by clarifying whether or not the privacy rights of that individual are recognized and whether they're being waived. In this case, it sounds as though the parent is waiving the child's right to privacy in this issue.
Okay.
Furthermore, it sounds as though this is a complaint, and if it is a complaint, for the board to recognize that it is something that needs to follow the appropriate procedural of the board, which is, it needs to follow the channels of being investigated, because if it is so that needs to be looked into, this board, in its essence, is losing its right to sit down and to evaluate the situation and
Not a
it raises to the elevate and board level for review.
She actually said that she was coming here with a comment and a resolution, perhaps a suggestion to change things.
Just awareness and then a suggestion for the future.
That didn't cut into her 3 minutes, did it?
No. I just wanted to be sure that everybody was clear that we offered you that chance to have the privacy.
Okay, so, let's see. So on the day of the game, they got released from class. She locked her keys in the car, and her uniform for the beach needed was inside. She frantically searched everywhere before telling her coach and was at a loss at what she should do. So coach, which is what they call him, coach told her to stay at school, get her keys figured out, and meet the team in Frenchtown. So Josie asked if she would still be able to play, and her coach told her yes, she would still play. So Josie came to my first grade classroom and told me about her keys. I asked her if she would still be able to play if she wasn't on the bus, and she said that coach told her she could still play, she just needed to get the keys figured out, meet in Frenchtown. So the coach's word is good enough for me, so we got to work on getting the key situation handled. We were able to get a friend's father to come to the school with the tool to get into the car, and then my husband drove her to the Frenchtown game. When she arrived, coach told her that he had gotten a call from Mr. Grabowska saying that she wasn't allowed to play because she wasn't on the bus. On the phone with Mr. Grabowska, coach explained why he told Josie to drive to the game and didn't think there was anything wrong with it. In the past, volleyball girls have driven to games from an ACT test or from the parents' cabins for games that are up near the Flathead. He didn't see how this was any different or was against any rule that he was aware of. He had given her permission to meet the team. Mr. Grabowska wouldn't budge, so coach called Mr. Bearlocker and got the same answer. He told Mr. Bearlocker that if there are rules like this, that he needs to have a coaching manual with all of them in it so that he doesn't continue to find out about rules only after breaking them. Mr. Graylocker told Coach that the handbook would be impossible because there are too many rules to fit into a book. And excuse me, but the way I see it, if we can fit the Bible into a book, we should be able to fit some coaching rules into a book. So furthermore, if there really are that many rules, all the more reason to write them down so that the coaches can reference them. I talked to Mr. Bearlocker too about the situation. Found that he didn't actually have all the facts when he made his decision. I filled him in on some of the
All right.
details.
I'm sorry, Ms. McCann, your 3 minutes are up, and now you've
I have
stepped
just a tiny bit left.
you've stepped on Mr. Bearlocker's right to privacy over a
Just to
school issue
let
here.
you
Come on, Pat,
Are we
come
following
on.
that policy? Because I remember
Please
Mr.
just
O'Brien
get to the
was.
end.
Can you let her finish, please? This is an important
This is-
issue.
I mean, like, 3 paragraphs is all.
Mr.
But I'm not here
Bearlocker,
to get anyone in trouble or anything like that, just to make change for
you've
the
gone
future.
over your 3 minutes.
Oh, my
Has a
word.
solution, one person has a solution.
Okay, I'm sorry, please, you're not recognized. You're gonna be asked to leave the meeting, and you cannot just speak up, okay? All right, excuse me, excuse
Okay,
me,
I'll be done.
excuse me. All right? We're done, okay? I'm sorry. You used up your 3 minutes for the issue, okay?
My name's Michelle Fowler. This is only the second board meeting that I've attended in 10 years. I'm so disappointed with the response. I feel like this is an important issue. One very respected member of the community has come forward with an issue and a resolution, and the board just looks so uninterested, and that's disappointing. However, I'm gonna continue this. I talked to Mr. Bearlocker about the situation also and found that he didn't actually have all the facts when he made his decision.
No, okay, we're still at Mr. Bearlocker's right of
We'll be done with
privacy.
that. Hey,
We
who's
are
running
talking-
this meeting
We cannot
anyway?
talk about
Come on now.
employee, any employee naming of issues in public comment.
I filled him in on some details. I also talked to him about the need for a coaching manual, and his reply was that it would be impossible because not all rules apply to every sport. My reply was that if we can come up with a student athletic handbook that works for all students in all sports, we can come up with a coaching handbook that works for all coaches in all sports. There are definitely universal rules and principles that apply to all coaches regardless of their sport. One example would be rules regarding athletes riding the bus, including when that rule applies and when it does not, since there is some gray area. It seems completely irresponsible to not have a coaching manual for obvious reasons, and especially when there is a coach asking for one. Not having clear rules in writing leaves the actual rules vague and easily bent depending on the situation. I sat down on my computer and Googled coaching handbooks for about 5 minutes. The first one that popped up was from Fort Benton, Montana. I also have examples from Belt and 2 more from other Northwest states. They range in length from 12 pages to over 70 pages. When you read the table of contents for any of them, you can clearly see the value of the information presented within. I urge the board to see the serious need for a coaching manual and to take the steps necessary to develop one for our district. My daughter can't ever get that game back, but if a greater good comes out of it, then it was not for nothing. Learning is what we do in schools. Let us learn from this situation how to make our school a better place. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you. All right, any more public comment? All right, we're moving on to the next item, which is correspondence. Do we have any correspondence tonight? Okay. So, next item after that is non-resident student applications. And we'll start with,
All right, we have some non-resident student applications. We have Mackenzie Williams Potter's non-resident student applications here.
He's not, but I'm his mother.
okay, so would you like to have executive session to discuss your student's application? Executive session means that everybody but you and us leaves the room.
Oh,
That's absolutely, you're right.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna call the meeting back to order.
I'll make the motion to.
Just a second, get that on. Sorry, Vicki.
I'll make a motion to accept Mackenzie Potter as an unlisted student for this current school year of 15-14. I'll second.
discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. All right, so Mrs. Potter, thank you. Welcome. Mr. Gobasik, put up your hand so she'll know who you are. She's with you by the door. Thank you. You guys will be getting in touch. Okay. Thank you very much and welcome.
The second student application we have is for Andy.
I guess you don't do that. Are the McFarland's here? Would you like to have a executive session? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, sorry, you're not sure.
Yes. Okay, so our meeting's going to be back in session. Give me a second to get the camera back on. So we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept Andy Carlton as the district student for our current school year.
Discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, welcome. Keep in touch with Ms. Backus. I'll see you in school tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
And then the last two applications are for Levi and Clayton Claggett. I see that Mother Kathy is here representing the two children.
Would you like to go into executive session?
I don't think so. I think the kids have been going to school here ever.
Okay. So, you guys have just had to move out of district, is that?
Yes, we did. Yes, that's really it. We just moved out of district, and the kids really would like to stay in Florence. This is all they know, and they'd like to continue here.
And the two kids are great kids. They fit in well with the school. Their older boy, Joe, graduated from here a couple years back.
Yes, we did.
So just recommend that we accept her out of district.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept Levi Claggett, Clayton Claggett's non-resident student application to attend Florence Carlton School.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, so call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Welcome. Just keep in mind that you're gonna have to keep reapplying each year for them to be out of district students. The office will send you a notice. So we're good.
Okay.
And you're welcome to stay or go as you would like at this
Okay.
point.
I better go.
Not that you don't want to have it. Thank you. Okay. So we are on to reports, and we're going to start with Mr. Glasgow.
Juniors are getting hit again on testing. They'll be taking the ASVAB test next week, Thursday, which is the, I think it stands for the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's just a career aptitude test that they take, so they get an idea of what kind of future they want to go into. And that's, kids don't have to take it, they can opt out if they want. And even if they take it, they can get the results and opt out of the military, seeing any of that info. So it works out pretty nice, they can do all that kind of stuff. And then, let's see, what else? We got lots of, the Sam we talked about it, the winter sports banquet, and parent meeting coming up next week, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bearlocker.
As you know, we hosted district and divisional volleyball tournaments. I want to thank the Booster Club, all the workers, all the volunteers, the cheerleaders, the band. It was great. We did real well on them, and I appreciate all the help. The girls are going to state as the first seed in the West. They will play their first game at 10 o'clock Thursday night against number 4 on the South, which is Boulder. The tournament will be held in Bozeman. It's quite the tournament. Class C, AA, A, and B are all there at the same time. There's 4 courts going at all times in the field house. A lot of action. They don't allow bands to attend because they can't have different games will be going and the bands don't. But a lot of action, and it's a great tournament. They do a nice job down there. Our winter parent meeting is Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m. in the old gym. That's for wrestling, girls basketball, boys basketball, and cheerleading. Wednesday night we have an elementary music concert. Thursday night we have the first night of wrestling practice, and then we have the Mr. Falcon show that starts at 7 o'clock also in the old gym. Friday night, tentatively, we have our football awards night. We'll be in the old gym, 7 o'clock. And then Monday, the first day of boys and girls basketball practices. And it'll be a busy week.
What day did you say Mr. Falcon is?
That is Thursday night, 7 o'clock, old gym.
That's this Thursday?
Yes.
This Thursday?
No.
No,
Next
next
Thursday.
Okay.
The sun sets
So where we can.
21st?
One week.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'd just like to say one thing. I'd like to thank Mr. Rayloff because I realized putting both a district and a divisional volleyball tournament on 1 week after the other is an incredible amount of time, and I appreciate that.
Thanks. I think we did real well. I don't know exactly how much money, but we saved a lot of money for motel rooms, busing, the activities here. Plus, we get a lot of our fans to attend. And we had good turnout, really good turnout, a lot of our kids. It was good.
And remember, that money goes in to reimburse the teams that have come in.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thanks.
Okay. Let's do, I'm sorry, there's an order here. Let's do K2.
So we have conferences tomorrow night and Thursday night. We expect 100% turnout all the time, so hopefully those will go well. We have this MAPS test results that the teachers are going to be discussing with parents, as well as the CRT parent letters that will go out during conference time. The elementary has an assembly tomorrow to recognize students who were given the SOAR awards. Those are being safe, showing ownership, aspiring, and showing respect. That will be the first of several recognition assemblies that we'll have. We had the Heart Walk last week, and we also were able to attend the high school's Halloween safety play, which is a tradition here at Florence that our kids really enjoy. Our parent organization, although small, has been mighty. We've got the recycling trailer out, and so again, we'll be participating in the recycling contest. So we recycle aluminum every month starting in November. We're still collecting box tops. We're collecting trick-or-treat candy that everybody's sick of to send to the troops for the trick-or-treat for the troops, so we're still collecting that in the office. And with cookie dough money, we've purchased a piece of playground equipment. It arrived last week, and now we're fighting the permafrost that will be coming soon, so we're hoping to get that installed on the playground.
Thank you.
Middle school conferences, of course, are the same days as everybody else's, and we'll also be reviewing the MAPS reports with parents. Our conferences this year are a little bit of a hybrid. There will be some conferences that are scheduled, and then some that are open, but we haven't, just an open door, no appointment necessary. Middle school rewards for MBI, 80% of our student body will be rewarded, and we do a donut day. We do that once a quarter, and it's kind of become a tradition. We've thought about changing it because donuts are not that nutritious, but we only do it once a quarter, and the kids do look forward to it. We have our 6th grade harvest piece coming up on November 26th. The Parent Association discussed tonight the Holiday Bazaar, which is coming up on December 7th, and the middle school parents they're the group that will organize that this year as they did last year. And then I thought I'd mention that Susan Matter, she was hired this last year as a library and media specialist. She's been doing a series of trainings with our staff after school for a half hour, and some of the things that she's been going over with the staff as far as use computer apps, things like Evernote, Prezis, which are, I learned about those the other day sitting in an 8th grade computer class. It's a way to create these presentations that are better than PowerPoint. Advanced Google searches, that's another topic that she's covering. So anyway, she's trying to bring us up to speed on all the latest computer apps and how we can use it in education.
All right, thank you. Mr. McGee?
If you were in attendance to our last football game, home game, you'll notice that the lights on the football field had gone off, and when they do go off, it takes time for them to recharge and come back on. Just so you're aware, we're working on that issue down on the football field, the electrical service down there. We're looking into it to see whether or not we need to have new wiring put in underground to bring into the main box, or whether the main box needs to be replaced. So we're working on that issue, and I just want you to be aware that it should be ready to go, here shortly, once we understand what the issue really is that we're dealing with. Secondly, as you've been down around the football field, you will notice that there is a shed that is being constructed down there. The shed is being constructed by the shop class. They have the trusses on and the sheathing on the roof, and now they are working towards wanting to get shingling on the roof and the siding up on the roof and then the doors. It's something that, we have other requirements within the curriculum that need to be done. So that, they'll do a little bit, they'll sit for a while, they'll come back when they have met other curriculum objectives and benchmarks, and come back when they have some time to work on it again. So by the end of the school year, we hope to have that shed 100% complete and done. But it's been a very good project for the kids, because they're getting the real hands-on life skills of the trades industry on, how to set corners on the walls, how to set trusses, how to sheathe, all the things that you'd see in a construction project. So it's good stuff. It's good for the kids. But that also takes us into, the shop program is a dual thing that we are looking at. We work in the shop program to provide the kids with some technology and some newer tools that they use, whether it's computerized lathes or whether it's computerized, plasma cutters. And then the kids learn about those types of tools, and then they also learn, the basics of the band saws and the table saws, so that they're integrating, the older skills of tradesmanship with some of the newer technologies that exist in the tradesmanship. And an example of that is, if you go down and you go into the band room and you look at a piece of cabinetry that was built for the guitars down there, you will see that they used some really cool tools that were computer graphics that carved into the wood that you could never do by hand on your own. It took precision cutting, and they were able to repeat the patterns to make it really classy and look nice. And so these are just some of the things in the shop program that we have going on. Weston Jones is doing a good job down there with that, and I have encouraged him to continue to think about the realities of the industry trades in terms of where we're headed in the future and where we are today, and how we maintain those basic skills, but yet expand the minds of the kids towards some of the more modern concepts and tools that are out there that they need to see as they leave here and be prepared for. Also, this past month, we kicked up the boiler system and started it up and running because we've had cooler weather. We've had a couple of glitches on a couple of mornings. We've had, the building being cold first thing in the morning because the boiler system had a failure. Dennis Burns is working on those issues, identify what is actually transpiring and what's going on. And so we're trying to troubleshoot and solve those. But for the most part, the boilers have been working pretty well for us this year, unlike it was several years ago where it was an everyday occurrence. We would have to kick down the boilers and restart them. Now they're much more reliable, but still, they're old and they do have their issues. And then tech issues. I do want you to know that we've been dealing with some tech issues in the building in terms of some security. We have a new firewall, sonic wall firewall that we installed, and its ability to communicate with our wireless network on the secure side has been a problem. And so it took us a little bit of time to figure out what the problems were, and the switching company for the switches in the building, we have Alcatel switches. They finally determined that they needed to write some new code so they could reprogram some of our switches so that it could communicate appropriately with the switches. And So they did do that and it works, but just so you're aware, those switches are now 7 years old and they do not last forever, so there could be a substantial expenditure here in the near future for us to have to update those switches. But for the most part, the network is now, we kind of got backlogged on a few of our issues with the Promethean boards and other workstations, but we're now playing catch up because we were more worried about the entire network going down rather than individual issues. And we feel like we are able to now play catch up and get some things done. And then finally, as we talk about the staff, there are some staff members that, deserve a little bit of recognition. Mr. Bearlocker for putting on those 2 tournaments did an outstanding job. Mrs. Kirby in the band program and all that she does with her students. The high school counselor, Mrs. Williams, has been doing an outstanding job in the high school counseling program, getting a lot of positive feedback from parents on her involvement with helping students find scholarships and working with student issues. Mrs. Keefe, who's been working well with the new language arts program, she's been doing an outstanding job down there, really exciting about how she approaches her subject matter down there and works with people. Mrs. Hartman's been doing an outstanding job in the art program and seldom gets the type of recognition she deserves. And then finally, Deanna Shorter has embraced the iPads and has been working very hard to work well with the special ed students in the elementary. So these individuals are just a few of the staff members that I believe deserve some recognition and some commendation from the board. And that's my report.
Okay, and I will second his thanks to specially named folks here. Not that everybody doesn't do a great job every day, but some days people really shine. So we appreciate that and thank you. So.
Good, thanks for going the extra mile for the vets. That's nice to take on extra work there.
Social studies teachers that did that, middle school and high school, they did a nice job. And the band and choir.
Okay, so we'll move on to new business. So we're high school wrestling program presentation.
All right. Okay. I don't have a presentation for you, but I have a
You should tell everybody who you are.
proposal. So, my name is James Muir, new wrestling coach at Florence High School. We have a couple irons in the fire. First of all, wrestling has always been kind of looking for a long-term home here at Florence. We roll out the mats every day in the gym, the old school gym / cafeteria. There could be some issues there, but we're really just kind of looking for some for a home for the wrestling program, and we're looking at hopefully getting that started as soon as possible. And if you guys could just take that in consideration. The other iron in the fire that we have is it's been a long time since obviously wrestling here has had a home or ever had a home in Florence. It's been over about a year that I've been looking around Florence and surrounding areas and spent some time, some pretty good time, hours on the weekends looking for open space, rentals, areas, going outsource besides school, because I know every crook and nanny in the school is just taken up at Florence, so there's no real wrestling room that could be had at Florence High School at the high school building. So my proposal is to the board is we have recently came upon a building that is for lease, and it is a block away from the high school. It is the old paint shop, print shop down here, owned by Robin Christopherson. The proposal is that we would like to try to rent that out for the high school season. He has worked a deal with us, possibly if we can get everybody on board, that there would be a 4-month lease. I have talked to him and Bitterroot Bucks, the baseball team here, local baseball team, willing to rent a back half portion of it for the batting cages, just for that 4 months. They're looking at renting that for $200, so that would knock off $800 for 4 months. Little Guy Wrestling Program is willing to put in $3,200 towards that rent for the 4 months. So with that being said, the last cut would be $3,200. What we're looking at is hopefully trying to get the school on board with divvying out $3,200 for that to happen, for that lease to happen. We could alleviate the Title IX issues by letting cheerleading use that room as well. That way they have a padded floor to do their cheers, so forth. So I guess that is our proposal. This is a short-term proposal, but it gives us a home. It gives us ability to work out when we want. We can come in early in the mornings and be able to work out. We cannot do that while we're at the high school. We can't roll out mats at 6:30 in the morning. There's too many. There's too many activities going on at 6:30 in the morning. Basketball. There's just other kind of sports going on. We can't roll out the mats. We can't get early morning practices in. If kids want to come drill and get extra workouts in, it's very tough for them. They can't roll a mat. Two people can't roll a mat off of that stage and practice and then be able to lift that mat back up on the stage. Even with me being there, and it's just not going to be functional. So we're trying to build a home for the wrestling program. It's a high priority for me. I know it's one of the bigger priorities since I was hired in my mind to get these guys a wrestling home. I think that's how the program is going to get built here. We're going to, get more kids out for wrestling. We actually can show status of wrestling on walls saying, hey, that guy's good. Can't do that in the gym because we can't post anything, pictures like the guy was all state. We just can't do that. So we're just looking for a home. And but this is a short-term fix. Our long-term fix is hopefully after this year we can start working on a building that we can hopefully get built here on the school grounds at some point. And my idea would hopefully be just have a building set up, insulated, with us being able to use that for next year wrestling season. But for this year's wrestling season, we just need a little help from the school with $3,200. We've got $4,000 already accounted for through other programs. So,
how much time would you, if the school couldn't come up with that, would you need to get that?
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Hang on a sec before we go. So we need to know some stuff about timeline. We need to have some stuff to the office about actual contracts, that kind of
Sure.
stuff. So,
Well, one of the things, I've talked.
I love the idea, but we gotta work out the
Sure.
details here in your timeline.
I've been in contact with James, we talked about this. I really support the idea because, it's nice to have a coach who's fighting for his program, wanting the program to grow and be bigger than what it currently is. And there's no doubt in my mind that the idea that he has a lot of potential to it. The problem that I face budgetarily is that at this point in time, we've set the budget for the year and we're trying to manage the budget through this year. And so it's very difficult at this point in time for me to be able to extrapolate money within my budget without having it impact other things that already exist within the budget. So, it makes it very difficult at this point in time for us to figure out where that money will come from, how we would get the $3,000 to set aside. And we're talking about 4 months. And I believe the idea is if we get the program in its own home and the wrestling parents and the community are able to come in and see how it works, if the little guy parents come in and see how this wrestling home idea works, then perhaps there will be a lot more synergy behind the idea of getting behind a community project to build a wrestling room on the school's campus. Am I correct on that being.
Yeah, I agree with that, you know, and that's all I'm here, I'm just trying to get you guys to talk about that option. I think, yeah, Mr. McGee and I have definitely talked about it and worked angles, but that, you know, I just would like you guys to think about those options that wrestling does not have a home here. It might be the only athletic program here that does not have its own facility. We roll out mats and roll them back up. Kids can't do extra drilling. In the long term, that's where we're getting shorted, as kids not being able to progress in their sport, and they deserve to progress just as much as everybody else in their own athletic sport. So,
What's the timeline?
the timeline, I think Robin Christopherson is very, very workable with. He said we can, you know, we give him a notice of less than a month. He said he could be out in less than a month, but you know, I think that if we go in, even at the start of our season, 21st of November, next Thursday, or if we go in at December 1st and make it an even month, you know, 4 months type deal. But he's very workable. You know, we can. But I'd like to, if we were going to do it, I would like to get in there, obviously, by December 1st, so that we can get things set up and I've done a lot of research wrestling here at Florence. If you guys don't know, a little bit of stats on it. It's actually has about 95 wrestlers throughout the year. 85 of those last year were little guy wrestlers. And we're only getting about 10 coming into the high school program. So we're losing something there. We're losing a little bit of touch with the fact that we have 85 little guy wrestlers, you know, going into the high school program, and we only getting 10 out. So the fact of the matter is we need a home. We need to build a program here, and starting with a home. And that's, you know, if we can implement cheerleader, maybe we implement a little bit of PE classes in there too. You know, just able to go a block over and roll around on the mats, get them in touch with the wrestling, and figure out, you know, what sport's all about. Could be an option as well. So.
Which building exactly are you talking about?
It's a green building, just about a block and a half or block or so away from the school here, just south on the east side of the road, just on the school drive here.
Looking Glass Printing.
Yep.
They built that metal building.
Okay.
It's a 5,000 square foot building. It's an open floor plan, and this is probably the only opportunity that's ever happened for this to show up for this kind of situation. I've literally looked for hours for over a year in this community for an open floor plan, and this is the only option that I've found. So.
Okay.
I absolutely love your passion, and I love your idea. I mean, I can sense it from here. So I've been a business owner as a fly fishing outfitter for years and done donation trips and been able to raise quite a bit of money through stuff, and I would love to be able to help out, and maybe we'll talk afterwards about trying to, I mean, I can raise some pretty good money usually with setting up float trips and raffle tickets, and it, you know, they're $475 days people pay to go fishing. So when people look at some money to do a float fishing trip to help a good cause, you know, that you can add up some funds pretty quick. And I absolutely would love to do that.
Perfect.
And I was going to say, Jamie, we may be hamstrung from the board's thing because we're going to start talking about next year's budget next month.
Sure.
So we may, you know, but I think that, you know, you guys work together so that he has something concrete to bring us so that we can make, you know, so that we can make a decision about the insurance and the liability and all of those other things that go with it. And moving the kids off campus to another, you know, remote location. We've got to have all those ducks in a row. And I think that, I'm sure we definitely, you guys bring us a plan and we're going to certainly look at it, I think.
And this is something that eventually would have in the newsletter.
Correct.
So whether we have to fundraise for you somehow this year and put you in the budget next year, come to us with a plan, with a real concrete plan that we can vote on something, okay?
Sure.
Can you give me those numbers again? What's your lease? What was your?
Originally, he's definitely come down considerably. He's down to $1,800 a month on a 5,000 square foot building. So that's where he's at.
1,800 a month, and you're wanting it for 4 months?
That's correct.
And you say you have 4,000 your own already?
We have allotted for $4,000. 3,200 is agreed upon through Little Guy Wrestling, and 800 through Bitterroot Bucks, renting the back third of the building for a batting cage for that 4 months. And then they're good after 4 months, they say, so they can get outside and start batting the ball outside. So.
And side note, I'd like to say I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about you as a coach. So.
And I appreciate it. Thank you, Will.
Hey, Coach, quick question. Have you started looking into trying to find deals to help build an actual building on campus yet? Have you even started doing that yet? I was just wondering.
Not at the moment. Really, just focused on our season right now. We have dabbled into it a little bit. Not the wrestling community, as you may not know, is a very huge community. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get this done. But I think we're just, we just need to really get the right area allotted to us so that we can kind of get things underway, I guess.
I think you'll do all right.
And
Okay.
so for right now, we're just focused on short term, just for this year, because we can't do anything about it until probably around spring. I'm hoping that we can really get things rolling in that direction. So.
Thank you very much,
But-
and, Mr. Finley.
Would your meets still be held in the gym though, not down?
Absolutely, yeah, still in the high school gym.
So
That was
a
just,
practice area.
yeah, that's strictly just a practice room, so that we can be able to get up and come in at 6:30 in the morning and not, be bumped out of the gym. There's points where we have to make up our wrestling. There's Christmas break, the floor gets finished in the wrestling, or in that little gym. We can't practice in the fumes are too high. There's, you can't practice on the little gym floor, so we got to figure out how to shift our practice schedule or where we can practice at that. So, we're moving mats all the time.
So how much square footage would you like to have?
I would like, in my mind, obviously a two mat room, 2 full mat rooms, so that walls are padded. That way, we're not bumping heads and people aren't getting concussions with the new rule of 3 concussions per athlete. So we have enough space to move around, and in my eyes, we'll have 15, 20 kids out for wrestling here pretty quick. So I think we're starting to move in the right direction. So.
But 2,500 square feet is way more than you need. Is that right?
No.
No.
That would be
5,000 is more than you need.
5,000.
5,000 is more than we need over there, but we're alleviating that with the Bitterroot Bucks are wanting to rent the back half of it, and it's sectioned off. This building has a section off, so they have their own spot. We have our own spot. They wouldn't interact with us at all. We wouldn't even probably know that they're in there if we're running practice.
Mr. Stigler.
A few years ago, one of our wrestling dads, who's a builder, got together with us, and we designed a facility that would have 2 mats, a weight room, boys and girls locker room, laundry facility, basically everything that we would need to be self-sustaining. And I have those plans on my classroom, and if Mr. Finley, if you would like to see those, or would like to look at the numbers on the sizes and dimensions, I'd be happy to show those to you.
You guys have presented that to us, and we really liked it.
Yep.
We just need to figure out the money.
Yep, that's the one that we proposed to you, yep.
Yeah, I mean, we liked it at the time, but we gotta figure out the money.
Maybe we should have a big auction like Lilo has their bash thing.
Well, okay, so we'll talk about that. You guys be in touch so that he can bring something to us. We'll see what we can figure out. Anybody else have any other questions?
Thank
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we're on to out-of-state travel request.
Okay, we have an out-of-state travel request by Mr. Kuchel. He would like to attend the Partners in Science National Conference in San Diego, January 15th through the 19th. That is the recommendation that Mr. Kuchel, as a biology teacher, attend this. Please be aware that when he goes to these types of things, he comes back able to present lessons to the students that are a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more engaging. So it does pay off when a teacher attends conferences like this.
Also move. Second.
Discussion? Okay, call for the question. All those in favor of allowing Mr. Kuchel's request? Aye?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Approved on that. All right, so now we're gonna talk to, or let Mrs. Camp talk to us about her next big trip.
You should already have a little information in your packets, I believe. I brought some possible itineraries if you'd like to look at that. So last year over spring break, I took a student group to Costa Rica. At the time, I teamed up with Ms. Blytree, a science teacher, and so we did a co-curricular trip. The trip obviously incorporated some Spanish speaking, because we were in a Spanish speaking country, and because it is a very green, ecological type country, it was very easy to incorporate science as well. It went very well. The students successfully used their Spanish, and they made me proud. I was beaming when I came back because they were my evidence that stuff happens in my classroom. And it went so well that I've been talking to some teachers again this year, and we would like to put together another trip. So we're just here to see if that's okay with you. And so this sheet I gave you, we haven't settled on an itinerary yet. As of now, I'm hoping to at least collaborate with Mr. Kuchel, because when we were on the trip, we were planning on certain events and Ms. Blytree, scientific events, and Ms. Blytree planned for that. But when we were there, we realized that there was so much more. Particularly, there was quite a bit of bird watching going on. Mr. Kuchel's former students were enthusiastically pointing out all of the birds that they had learned. So we came back and we told Mr. Kuchel about that. So he is particularly interested in the bird watching. So right now I'm working with the tour company to find out what kind of a tour would incorporate the things that he would like to see happen for the science students with the in the town language speaking opportunities that I would like. So this is just a couple examples. The Touch of the Tropics tour is the tour that we did last year. It involves, a lot of active things. They learn some culture, they learn some history, they learn some science and ecology and all that sorts of things. And then the Coast to Coast is very similar. It just takes us to the other side of the country, which we didn't go on. But again, the experiences are similar. Some in town, some at wildlife parks and things like that.
And these field trips are fundraised field trips, correct?
Yeah, it's 100% fundraiser. The kids come up with their money. We don't use any district money.
And in terms of the bird watching and stuff, the biology students do have a significant unit that is taught to them in terms of how to recognize characteristics of different, birds and the sounds of the birds and the behaviors of the birds. So it could really, enhance what they're learning in class to have exposure to, tropical fauna.
Okay, so, thank you very much. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Mrs. Cam's request to pay for group students to Costa Rica.
Actually, this is 2014-15.
It'll be 2015. The upcoming spring break, there's already a trip to Ireland, so it'll be spring break 2015.
Well, and when I say next year, I meant
Next
that-
year.
that
School year.
Yes. I'll second.
Okay, so discussion?
Is it a safe country to visit?
Yeah, they're really good at we're planning to travel with EF Tours. All tour companies take great pains to keep the students in safe areas. We were always in usually pretty small, friendly towns. And we always were told to stay within a certain perimeter, so we were within sight of each other. San Jose, which is the city that we fly in and out of, is a little bit more of a big city. But we stay in a certain area, so there were no safety concerns.
That's always my worry when I hear about a class going.
Well, one of the things that we experienced a couple of years back was the Greece trip. And when they went to Greece, there was all the upheaval in
Yeah.
that country that was
Yeah.
going on. And what was very interesting about EF Tours was they started contacting us a few months in advance of our trip leaving, and, you know, making plans and alternative things that might happen if they're unable to fulfill a part of their itinerary. But they were very good and very conscientious and safe in terms of how they were communicating their plans to us and how they were going to manage the situation for our students. So I believe they're a quality agency in terms of sending students on these types of trips. They have a large.
This is their business, they wouldn't send kids off to, yeah.
And they have plans in place. They will not send students to places that have any kind of unsafe activities going on in the area. They will redirect the students to a different place, and they reserve certain hotels in certain areas, and we're always accompanied by a trained tour guide. We have our own bus the entire time. So we're in the country, but we're always in a somewhat controlled environment. And also, you know, I have certain things in place. You know, I'm a bit protective of them myself. And so we had certain things where, you know, they couldn't go anywhere alone. I required them to travel, if they walked, you know, around to shop for souvenirs or anything, they had to travel at least in twos, preferably threes. I had to make sure that they had a Spanish-speaking student with them. We constantly were, you know, I called them hens and chicks, and they had little groups that they had to check in with, and I would say, do you have all of your chicks, and all these things, and constantly, you know, every few minutes we check and make sure they're where they're supposed to be. And with multiple adults, we have a certain number of adults for a certain number of kids, and so, you know, they've always got eyes on them.
You know, one of my kids went on that trip, and just had a wonderful time. It was a nice opportunity for them. So, thanks for taking it.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me come. It was fun to visit.
Should organize trips for parents and make the kids stay home.
That works for me.
Most of the kids.
It'd be less work for me.
Most
babysitting.
of the kids have seen out-of-country places, and the parents haven't. So.
We invite the parents to come, but usually it's such a strain on their pocketbook to send the kid that they don't come themselves. But adults can travel. Some teachers do it a different way, but I want them it to be associated with curriculum, so they have to be in certain classes in order to go.
Okay, so any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor of having her trip, please say aye. All right. Thank you. We'll be hearing more from you in future months, I know.
Yes.
All right. So let's go to our old business, which is board policies. And from our revisions that were handed out at the last meeting and revisions that are available for review on the Florence website. It's on this Trustees tab, and you can look at every page of the policy book on that Trustees tab. So that's where anybody can look at any policy that we're discussing. So tonight I wanted to go around the table and see if any of the board members had anything in particular that they, language discussion, anything that they wanted to ask, and we'll go from that. So Mrs. Cornish, you were on that committee. Because you sat through all the meetings. Yeah, okay. Mrs. Rhodes? Mr. Finley?
Oh, well, something came up. I've got a couple of items I'd like to throw out there.
This is the time.
A citizen called me and we had open gym, and they thought it was open gym, which it can't be open gym, otherwise it would be mayhem, no doubt, the potential for it anyway. But anyway, maybe we ought to have Florence Carlton student open gym rather than anybody that comes in. I don't know if that's, however, it was handled fine. Whoever was monitoring it that day did a good job. But it was somebody that wasn't a student here and wasn't, that got wind that it was an open gym, and obviously, you can't just let
Yeah, that
Everybody.
was my goal.
Well, Montana High School Association has something to say about it, basically, right? And so we followed their rules, but I like your idea of being sure that any mention of open gym
Take the
is
question out of it.
Florence Carlton Student Open Gym or whatever.
Or FCHS Open Gym.
Right, there we go.
That's what it's for.
And, is it,
Yeah.
do we, is it direct, does it specifically say that in the policy, or is that in the handbooks? It's in the handbooks, okay.
Is the audience allowed to ask questions in this part at all?
Let us get around the table once first,
Okay.
okay, and then we'll go there. But I like that, any place that we need to make that correction, whether it's a handbook or whether it's our saying that us as, the policy saying that we're following the handbook, any, notice that we put out about it in the Falcon View or anything like that. Mr. McGee had a great informative piece in the last Falcon View, clarifying the topic, so I think our own folks know that, but, wouldn't hurt to just be sure that it,
Yeah, just,
yeah,
it probably would come up again in 100 years, but.
sure.
And the other thing that I thought is worth some discussion is maybe making a policy that school can't start until the day after Labor Day.
That's all a lot of arguments.
Because every year we go through that, right?
Well, it'd be nice if the state of Montana would just say school's gonna
Wouldn't that
start
be nice?
this day and it's gonna end this day. I don't know that we, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that that's something that we should actually put in policy. Because it kind of takes, our calendar sometimes is, sometimes, like this year, Labor Day was early enough in the year that,
Yeah, some years it works out
but
fine.
some years it's way late, and maybe that's why the state never gets into it, they get into a lot of other things.
Well, one of the things, final approval of any calendar is the board's prerogative,
And that's true.
so.
But we do argue about it for half hour.
Every year, it's the biggest, it's one of them, and it's usually a meeting that we have a lot of parents at, no matter what.
With strong feelings about it.
Sure.
Mostly they have it start after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Are you proposing that we make that a specific,
I am, yeah, I'd like to have, see if we couldn't get that inserted into the
Okay,
school calendar.
So what I'll do is I'll take a look at the school policy with regard to the calendar, and see if I can come up with some language. And I'll run it through the members on the policy committee before it's brought back to the board.
and we probably should run it through Montana School Boards Association to be sure that we're not out of compliance with something that we don't know about.
I believe that it is the board's prerogative if it wants to set policy like that to do so.
Let's just
Is
ask,
this
since we
something
pay
you
them
have
to
to
help
talk
us.
to the teachers union about?
No, because at the end of the day, it is the board's prerogative to set the calendar.
Okay, so Mr. McGee's gonna check into that, and we can discuss that specific thing then at a future meeting as we talk about adopting these policies.
It's fine. That's great.
Could-
Mr. Reynolds,
I just wanted to, I was asking if I could say something about the open gym.
can I come around the I need to come around the table and tell
Okay.
everybody first, okay?
Well, we moved on to the next.
I know, but that's okay, we'll come
Okay,
back to you.
all right.
Mhm. So, Mr. Reynolds, did you have some specific languages or policies that you wanted to look into further?
I have a few issues beyond everything. I'd like to revisit, before I get started, I do have a number of policies. I've gone through the 1,000 section. And I do have 4 of those I'd like to discuss here or on the topic. I would like to address my question from last board meeting, and this is in reference to Mr. McGee. I sent you, you had told me at the last meeting that we did, you did hold meetings, and you did have the minutes available to me, and I sent you an email. The following day, you did reply that you would look into that and give me the information on the committee meeting minutes, and that was October 10th. November 12th, I believe I've sent you close to 16 emails. I offered to come up and ask you, I called you on the phone, left your voicemail. I guess a couple questions, why you choose not to answer my voicemails, and number two, are those minutes available to you?
Yes, they are available to you.
Is there a reason I don't have them today?
Working on those minutes to get them to you.
You're still working on them?
Correct.
So can you answer me why? I mean, our communication here is horrible. Is there a reason that you choose not to answer my email?
There is no reason why I'm not answering your emails.
There were 16 of them. About my voicemails?
You've left voicemails?
Yes.
We don't have a voicemail system for school, do
Well,
we?
yeah, we do.
Okay,
Oh,
so.
so that's if you get right to their line, yeah.
Okay, so other than that, so I asked to have minute meetings so that I can review these hundreds of pages of policies. You told me you had them. Here we are, November 12th. Asked me to go through the second reading of these, and I still don't have those. It makes no sense to me. You know, I'm questioning why it's taking you that long to send me meeting minutes that you take.
Well, I was on the committee, Colby. Is there a specific question that you have about?
I just want to review them all so that I can see what you guys discussed, where these policies got. I mean, there's a number of other things.
I think that your anticipation about what those minutes are gonna say is, I don't think you're gonna find that there's any specific detail that we're gonna, we'll say we talked about this policy, this policy, this policy, but we didn't write down everything that we talked about.
So you
It's
didn't
a
want
work meeting,
it's
so
minutes.
the
It's not
minutes
a
are
verbatim.
very, very,
It's not
very.
verbatim documentation of what was said.
All right, while we're on that topip, who keeps the minutes during those meetings?
It's
During
just-
committee meetings, I do.
You keep the minutes, is that, so are we not supposed to have a neutral party? Would you like,
What do we need a neutral party for?
to keep minutes, do we not? I mean, I
Well, we
do
don't
have,
Are you recommending that we bring in a secretary to take minutes on those meetings?
isn't that, have you guys read the, code annotated on any of those issues?
But
on
what my
meeting
question
minutes?
is what's your
I
problem?
simply just like to listen to them, review them, see what you guys discussed, since I wasn't
Well, that's
there.
why you have the little, drive to look at all of those.
I know, it shows me the revisions you
Well,
made.
the best person to call, and if you have questions about why we discussed what we discussed, would be Mr. Joe Brock at the Montana School Board Association.
He kept minutes on?
He is the individual who comes, he takes a copy of our policy, goes through it, and he basically brings us up to speed on what the legislature has passed as far as what we need to have in place on some of these policies.
I think my question's being avoided. Are the
No.
minutes available or not?
The minutes are what we have taken by hand. I write down some things. Let's see, Mike Rager was on that, was in that committee for a while. They're just informal.
We do have minutes.
You do have minutes, because you told me.
But it's gonna say, Colby,
I mean-
it's gonna say, we
As I
talked about
stated, I'm
policies
working on it.
5,000 through 8,000, and it's not gonna have pretty much any detail about
Okay,
it
well,
at all.
here's code annotated, let me read. Minutes. Minutes shall be taken at all open meetings of a public body, which shall consist of a record or summary of all motions, proposals, resolutions, and other matter formally voted upon, and the vote thereon.
But
That's your code
none
annotated.
of those things that happened at this
but
meeting were voted
so
upon.
do-
But you're
We
reading
now-
Brought it all
something that
back to
deals
you
with
to go
that,
through.
with a board meeting that action will be taken on.
Okay, let me ask you,
And the
okay, so
committee
I
meetings
knew that was
action
coming, so I
will be
highlighted
taken.
this for you, John. Any committee, or subcommittee appointed by a public body or association described in subsection 2, Montana Code Annotated, for the purpose of conducting business that is within the jurisdiction of that agency is subject to requirements of this section.
Correct.
Okay, so that
Minutes
is
that will
subcommittee.
give you- That will give you a summary of the discussion that was held in those meetings.
Thank
It
you.
will not be verbatim, but it will be a summary of that.
So they do exist, and I will see them?
And you will-
Can you give me a date when I will see them?
I am working on those, and I would like to get them to you as soon as possible.
So you will not give me a date?
Let me just, I'm gonna intervene one more time here.
Well,
What takes so long to make
Let
the
me
copy and
inter-
send them?
Well,
Let me intervene.
what takes so long is that you do have other work that is attended to in the district. We've been working on consolidated applications and dealing with the CVIS and a lot of other
That was gonna be my point, that
are
everyday
done
school
in
business
in
takes
this
Comes prior
precedence
to me
over that.
asking for information, then they have
Yep.
to vote it on, vote
Yep.
and pass it.
Well, in some instances, if we're talking about money to the school district in forms of grants and stuff that have deadlines, there are things you prioritize in your business and you do not want to neglect.
Okay, I mean, we can move on, because we can go on and on about that. I guess at this point, I question whether, I'd like that on the record, I question whether these exist
Well,
after
the thing
36
is
days.
that's why we're having, we have first, second, third readings. You read through the policies, you've got a question. I served on the committee.
No, I'm
Mr. McGee was
going-
there.
that's
I
where
would be
I'm at
glad
now.
to try to answer for you any question that you might have. And if I don't answer it in the way that you'd like it, we can certainly contact Mr. Brock.
All right, we'll
so
pass,
that
it.
he
We'll pass on
can-
it, thank you. All I'm saying is that I was told we have minutes, I was told I will have them, I want to see them.
But really, that has nothing to do with what we're
That's
trying
fine,
to do
all I
tonight,
want
as
is,
far as
because if
going
those
over
don't
this
exist,
policy,
then I
we're
was
wasting
not.
time.
If those don't exist, then I was obviously, some mysteries are being told.
They're not,
according-
they're,
Well,
they
then produce the
exist.
meetings and they.
I have notes also.
Okay, thank you. So,
Madam
as far
Chairman,
as.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Mrs. Rose.
Can we possibly figure out some way that we come down here, we volunteer our time to work here at the board as a team, to do the business of the district and get things done?
I think we're having a meeting
Now,
on Thursday for that.
I'm getting really tired of half of our meetings are going to educating Mr. Reynolds on stuff that if he wants to know, he can go to the district office, which you've told him over and over. And it's
And
really,
he's not
I'm
willing to do
tired of
that.
volunteering my time down here to sit here and listen to the Colby Reynolds show. I wanna come down and I wanna get down to the business. I trust our administration. I'm serving on the board because I love the school. But I don't come down here to listen to Mr. Reynolds give Mr. McGee a bad time. If you guys want to do that, fine. But don't waste our time at a board meeting because we've got business to do. We've got kids to take care of. We've got a business to run. We don't have time for the BS.
Thank you. Okay, so, Mr. Reynolds, I was just gonna add my 2 cents to that, which was that business, everyday business in school takes precedence over any board request for information, or any public request for information. And so, if your request for information is causing extra time and money to be spent to get that done, then those things need to, the amount that that's gonna cost needs to come to the board for us to approve that, whether we're willing to spend that or not. Okay? So, if you need to know these things and you wanna talk about these things, this is not the place. You need to be in Mr. McGee's office with him, and you need to make an appointment. If you're unwilling to do that, then we're not gonna continue the ongoing items that the gotcha this, gotcha that, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, okay? So, I'm just gonna let that go at that. Now, if you have specific questions about numbered policies, that's what we're talking about right now. So that's where we are.
I do, thank you.
Okay, let's go for that.
All right, can we start with 1402?
Okay. All right, go ahead.
This is our newest policy that's added, the school board use of electronic mail. The reason this policy came to my attention is I've had nothing but, I cannot get any electronic mail.
Would you read that policy for us so that those in the audience would remember? We could kind of get us up to speed on that.
What the
The
school
whole
board.
policy, 1402.
Yeah, read that so that, because the public doesn't have a chance to have a copy of this in front of them unless they brought their laptop.
It's on my phone though.
I read the whole policy.
Okay, but I'm asking if you would
Yeah.
read it for us.
We can make copies for them.
No, just
Just
read
go ahead
it.
and read it.
Policies
Just
to
read it.
These
Just get
guys.
started.
Okay. School board use of electronic mail. Use of electronic mail, email by members of the board will conform to the same standards of judgment, priority, and ethics as other forms of school board related communications. Board members will comply with the following guidelines when using email in conduct of board responsibilities. The board will not use email as a substitute for deliberations at board meetings, and this is the part I have an issue with, or for other communications, or business properly confined to board meetings. I don't know why I need to go the rest of the policies. I don't have an issue with it.
That's fine,
unless if I
we're
want to.
perfectly good with that.
Well, that's a new policy that was presented by Mr. Brock, that is something that we have to have in there.
Well, I would like.
Is it referenced down at the bottom?
I think at 1402 shows me that it is, I don't, the 1401 says REC, which is recommended, isn't required, only R is required.
Yes,
So he did not require it to recommend.
recommend.
Okay. So
And that's why
that
we,
is, so
that's
you're
why we
correct.
hire the Montana School Boards Association to help us update our policy.
I understand all that,
Because
but
they
it's
deal
not,
with
it's
not
not
just Florence
required,
Carlton,
right? It's
they deal with
recommended.
every school district in the state of Montana.
But it is not required by them, correct?
It is not,
It's
that's
recommended.
what it's written, I don't have my.
I have it. It's
I have it, and it's a recommended. I have the
Okay.
list, and it
Thank
says
you.
recommended.
So my problem with that, I would like those words taken out, or for other communications, because since becoming a board member in May, I have wanted to do more electronic mail business like the rest of the nation, the rest of schools, like everybody's doing. I get nothing but, here's a good example. I'm requesting public information via electronic mail, and I cannot get it. The board sent me out our expenditure budget and charged us $6.97 to mail that to me, when it could have been scanned and sent to me for 10 cents. That right there tells me I can't do that. I've been fighting that from day one. We need to catch up to the rest of the world and do things properly, save money here. We need to conduct business electronically like the rest of everybody's
But you
doing.
still have to have hard copy.
I agree with that, and I'm not asking for that, but I don't want you to have to send me this certified mail, then I had to drive to the post office to pick it up, when this is on every other school's website. So I don't understand where this public information is not offered to everybody, and why we're putting it as a new policy. And that right there tells me that it gives you all the right to keep telling me, Pat, because I do have an email that you sent me when I first started the board back in May, saying that you will not, right here, Pat, says, we will not, capital word not, be sending out school financial information to board members or public by email. I don't think I have to explain why. Well, Pat, you do have to explain why. This is public information. Why will we not send this out to the public? Whose hands do we not want this in? I don't understand. I got elected on transparency, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. And I'm being fought left and right, and there's the first policy I read, I don't like. So
Do you ever start
there
to
it
think
is.
you're the only one that's having a problem?
Maybe I'm the youngest and the
I don't
newest.
think
I
age
just-
has
do you,
anything to
how
do
much,
with
do you bank on that?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, what's the problem?
Because when I come to the board meeting, I'm handed packets.
Okay, but don't.
I have it there, I would prefer to have a packet I could look at
That's
in my
fine, Dorothy,
hand.
you prefer,
rather
that's
than
fine,
go to
I
my
don't.
computer.
I don't.
Well, why don't you just pick up what we get?
Okay,
We're
so
getting off subject
we're getting
here
off
again.
topic here, okay? So here's the thing.
Okay.
We can have the opportunity to ask Mr. Brott to make a clarification about this particular item, and we can then, we'll continue at that as part of the process. We're not gonna decide it right here now, but we need to have further clarification from Montana School Boards.
On
And the
1402.
teacher now,
Could I interject a little bit? I guess for the sake of trying to move through this policy manual revision that we're talking about, there's going to be quite a bit of questions that need to be asked. And that's good and that's helpful. But I do know that there's probably going to be quite quite a few policies as we move through that are in agreement, that all of the board members can agree to. So when we have a policy that gets questioned, I would ask, can we just pull those off so that when we get to third or fourth reading on these, we can agree to approve the policies that everybody agrees to. And then the ones that have the questions, we can bring back to the next meetings on the third, fourth, and if we have to go to fifth readings, to hash out and debate the specific language within those policies that may be uncomfortable for individuals on the board, so that we can come to a consensus on appropriate language that we feel as a board is going to fit what we want to accomplish.
That's fair enough, so I'll make a proposal based on that. Everything that is required within our own, I'm more than willing to pass. I understand that it's required by MTSBA, and I'm willing to do that. My issue are with our recommended and our optional, which is I'm going through here, and as I'm taking the time, the numerous, endless hours of reading, I'm finding discrepancies that I'm not comfortable with. They don't help me run a healthy school. So yes, I'm all for that. So if you'd like to pass everything that is required, I'm willing to go there. And
are you putting that as a motion to pass all required things on second reading tonight?
I'm more than fine with that. Required. All motions that are required. All recommended and optional, we carry on and we discuss per. And if we need to have a private meeting or a special meeting for that, so the public doesn't have to sit here and go through the Kobe Reynolds show, I'm all for that.
Okay, so I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so any further discussion on passing the recommended policies?
No, required.
Required policies on second reading, which means that they're gonna be passed, they're gonna be noted as updated, we're all good. Okay, so any further discussion?
Required by MTSBA.
That's why it's listed that way.
That's right. Please note that. That's all I have.
Okay, so
Just want to discuss about the gym.
we're still coming back to that.
Okay.
We're still coming back. I'll let you.
Okay, I'll wait then.
Okay.
Okay.
So, because that's not actually a board policy, that's in handbooks, so we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. It's okay,
I
huh?
didn't get enough time to, it's not gonna affect my school calendar.
No, because that's
something we're gonna have to work
something
on.
that-
We're gonna have to bring that one back, so that's not a requirement.
Okay, good. Oh, no worries.
Okay, so now we got a framework. Thank you very much.
Okay,
We got a framework.
so now we can move on to the recommended and optional policies for discussion, and then move on to audience participation, so.
Okay, so maybe Mr. Reynolds, give us a quick list of their numbers, and I think what we're gonna need to do here is hear a quick synopsis of your concern, so that we can go back and study that, and we'll come back with that at the next meeting.
I'm
Does that
only
sound
on,
good?
remember, I'm only on section 1000.
Okay, well, give us
There's a
the
lot
give us the
more.
number.
Well, we can just continue all year if it takes that to get through the rest.
It might.
That policy.
Okay, so let's hear the numbers.
The next one I had was,
That one was 1402, right?
yeah, that was 1402, 1401. You want me to go through and voice my concerns on it now?
Just tell us what your issue is with that. That one's called records available to the
Records
public.
available to public, imagine that. Omit superintendent, add business manager to, on the line item 10, where it says an individual wishing public information that is electronic format or other non-print media must submit a detailed subscription to the superintendent. If this is public information that they're requesting, why does it need to be filtered through John and take up his valuable time that he's obviously struggling to have, and that the business manager couldn't pass those out?
So can we do without sarcasm?
Kobe Reynolds show?
Yeah.
So that one, I would like to omit that. That's a quick one on that.
Okay, all right, we'll take that under advisement.
Alrighty, 1332. 26, there's no amount set in the line item, contracts for goods and services and leases. The superintendent is authorized to sign on behalf of the board contracts, leases, and/or contracts for goods and services for amounts under blank. Without prior approval to the board, the types of goods and services contracted must be approved. I believe we should probably have a number in that. And also back up on that, line item number 7, for the conduct of the business of the district, the board may grant authority to specific staff. Maybe we should put the name of that specific staff in there. That can change yearly as the board changes.
But there's a reason, Cody, that that's blank. It's because that's what we're going to be doing, is filling in those spots.
Okay, great. Like I said, let's talk about it. The 1420F, it was confusing to me because we already had 1420, I believe. My question is, why are we adding it?
Okay.
How is it?
Just so that you understand on the numbering system, like 1420P is procedures. 1420F is the form. So you have the policy, and then sometimes you have the procedural side to the policy, which would be 1420P, and then sometimes you have a form that is attached to the policy. So you have the form that is required. So that's what it's like that.
So, and on top of each one, where this R is
That's something from the school board association.
Does that not mean anything? It doesn't mean required or anything? It's just simply on there, don't pay attention to it?
Well, I think they're telling us R for required, and then does it say
Then it's
REC?
not, that's incorrect, and from the way I'm looking at it, so you're right. All right.
So 1420F is optional.
Correct, if you look
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
1420F is optional, but it has an R on the top, so that's why I questioned.
Okay.
So that answers that. So there's my 4 in the 1,000 section.
Okay.
Thank you for everybody's time.
I guess I come from a little bit of a different world. As you know, my father ran schools for years, and I grew up in quite a healthy environment. And open gyms were part of my life since I was, I think, 1977, when I was 7 years old, when he started running his first school. They were the most healthy environments I can imagine. They had alumni coming back to them. They had kids from the school area that were not at my father's school. They were the most inclusive gyms and the best place for kids to enjoy playing together. An exclusive program we don't have to adopt from MHSA because I don't believe they actually understand what I understand about open gym to be such a great environment for kids. You have teams, guys graduate, they come back from basketball, some other guys play, sometimes maybe that's against MHSA, I'm not even sure about that, but you have alumni playing against kids in the area. Then you're now saying you're going to exclude middle school kids. Oh, okay, so 7th and 8th grade kid there's some kids that were varsity when they were freshmen. They're players, man. They're ready to go. So you're going to exclude 7th and 8th grade kids from open gym. To me, it's incredible what I'm watching for kids around here. It makes me sick. From what I come from, is insane what I see around here. And so I'm just saying, please, think about it for a little bit. If there's a kid around here that doesn't go to the school that wants to come play with some other kids, what the heck is the big deal? I really don't understand it. It blows my mind. That's all I have to say.
My reply to that is, if we look in the papers here lately, there's a couple local yokels around here, we just soon not have around in this town.
You're going to couple sour eggs, spoil the whole thing for everybody else?
Why not?
Well, you could certainly, if there's a couple sour eggs that have made some mistakes, you're certainly allowed to make a couple rules to keep those kids from that gym and not other people that are perfectly healthy kids. It's an easy fix. Not a problem.
Well, try to address this a little deeper. We had a situation, Mr. Bearlocker, could you stand up for a second, because I want to talk with you and pick your brain. We had a situation a few years back where a couple of our kids went down to another school district and participated in their open gym. And there was a complaint filed against that school district by a person, and our school district was noticed. Am I correct?
Yes, the person was in this office.
by the school.
He wrote a complaint saying that coaches went down and were coaching, and
We had no coaches
No,
down.
we had-
Oh, I know that story.
We just had
I
a
know.
couple of our kids that
a
went
couple of
down.
our students went down there to play. There was a music concert here. Both gyms were being used, so some of our kids went down there. Over the years, our gym has been open. We've had kids from other schools. We've had to cut it out completely because it's a violation of the high school
So what did
association.
the high school association say to us with regard to our kids being down there?
That they were in violation for letting kids from other schools to come in, and that the only thing that we were in violation of is that our kids shouldn't be down there playing.
I happen to know that's not true, and it's because it was an open gym orchestrated with a bunch of players, and we got in trouble for that, and the MHSA is very clear about that. It didn't have anything to do with us playing in another gym.
You were absolutely wrong.
wasn't there a coach?
There's a written document, I've read the documents from
Mr.
MHSA.
Fairlock
Okay,
and I
guys,
were
guys,
directly
one at a
involved in
time.
this situation.
My name was mentioned, and I was down there, and I was supervising the music concert here that night.
So I mean,
So-
the fact of the matter is that we have been in contact with the School Boards Association, and we were given direct instruction by them. And we're going to adhere to that. We do not want our programs getting into trouble because of that. We know what happened down in Corvallis, and we're just like,
And it says 9 through 12, right in the high school association manual. Where we got confused is it says students, 9 through 12. We thought that that meant any students could go to that gym or our gym to participate. It never said that your students at your school. After we got the interpretation from them, they said that meant students from Florence Carlton High School are the only ones that can attend ours and the ones there. Because I had read that prior to that. And if you read it, it just says students 9 through 12. I thought any students 9 through 12 could go anywhere and play. And it's very common. I called Malta co-ops with 3 other teams in football. Every Wednesday night, those teams come in and play basketball. Since then, they've had to adopt different rules that they can't do that. That's just open gym. They do not want adults in there. They don't want younger kids in there. What high school association told me is that if somebody gets injured, then you're liable for it. And
So
the high
we
school
can't have
association,
any other kids, so if my son who's graduated now came back to play, couldn't do it?
not in an open gym
So
situation.
we've allowed that in the past, but we learned from it.
We have learned from it.
but we have created like an adult open gym time. So
Every
that
Wednesday night.
Adults in our community have a time they can come down to the school and they can conduct themselves in an adult open gym.
Who created that?
We had a
Correct.
parent sign in.
So what you're saying, like you're all about local control, but now you're not, is that kind of, well, I don't understand if the MHSA is, they're not making you have the gym like that, is that correct?
No, the rule is, it says student body. We got fined for the last issue. And MHSA's rules are that they will fine you again, and then if it continues, they will pull your participation from MHSA.
Was that last issue happening in a particular time in the season when basketball kids were not to be able to play together, or is it just, that's just all year?
All year.
Are you sure about
It's,
that?
It is.
You sure about that?
From August 1 on.
Did that incident where that complaint happened, was that during basketball season?
No.
Was it prior to what month?
It's during the football season.
So it was during this
When you
fall.
have open gym.
In the fall.
All right, well, I'm sorry for bringing it all up, I just come from something
Oh, I
that,
understand.
it
That's
just,
where I
it's
grew up, too,
amazing
and
to
it
me.
just can't-
It's
And I
just-
agree with you, I would love to have it wide open, but I want you to know, it's not that we're trying to dictate it or we're trying to ratchet it down to prevent our community from having access to the facility. But there are just these realities with us belonging to the high school association, we have to subscribe to their rules, and we have to follow that.
And if we don't follow them, they're gonna kick our kids out, and then we haven't, from participating, and then we've lost all around.
I'm looking forward to a phone call to MHSA and find out about if there's any way we can
In
get a
fact,
change.
we asked them if we could pull the curtain down in the new gym and have junior high kids on one side and high school kids on the other side, and they said no.
This is not it.
Couple of things. I grew up where in the Flathead you could go to every gym and play summer ball with everybody, and it was actually you couldn't play. So I just didn't quite buy what Mr. Gerlacher had told me when my kid was in 8th grade, so I called MHA. one, I got a little chewed out for calling directly that I should be trusting my superintendent, or not my superintendent, but my athletic director, and that if there was a problem with that, that I should be, you know, making a formal complaint. And what I found out is just what was expressed here, is that you can't do that. It's the law of the land. If we want to jeopardize our athletic program, go for it. I also was a little concerned why my 8th grader couldn't play in open gym. I got the same answer. Well, if he doesn't want to qualify, it will hurt his eligibility when he's in high school, if he does. So if you would like to verify my conversation, you're more than welcome. My other question is, I am really tired of coming to these board meetings and the public being so disruptive. I've never been to public meetings where people can just shout out from the public and be acknowledged. I mean, you guys have important business to do here, and at some level you bring it on yourselves because you allow it.
We're trying. Thanks for that.
I would be booting these people out.
Thanks for that. We're trying. So, okay. So we've gotten through, I'm closing the discussion at this point.
Real quick, Pat, just my ignorance. I just want to know, does the policy that we're discussing, does it have to be agreed by all board members?
No, only
It does.
majority of the board members when we vote.
Thank you.
I just looked up the MHSA rule, and it says open gym is open to any youngster that's interested in attending.
Student body, though. It does, if you look under the
Under-
rules,
okay.
there's sub-rules, and it
There's
says
sub- oh,
student
so there's a
body.
whole bunch more. All right,
Okay.
my bad.
All right,
All right,
so
let's close.
We're
I'm
done,
sorry.
we're done with that, okay? All right, so, we are then at, we're on to septic system construction. Mr. McGee.
Okay, currently the septic system is moving along. You might have noticed that there was a big hole next to the sidewalk out here. They did do the 18-inch boring under the highway. It did go off without a hitch. You know, there was a day of delay where they were worried that they might hit a gas line, and they verified that where the depth of that line was and made sure they missed it. But we did have a major setback last week. They put a 10,000 gallon holding tank in the ground, and they did a pressure test on it, and the tank failed. So the contractor, engineer, and manufacturer of that tank are now in discussion on how to resolve that. But what it essentially has done is it's probably going to push the project back by about a month, because it takes time to build a new tank of that size and to allow the concrete to cure and then to place it in the ground. But outside of that, I was up on the drain field yesterday when they did do some pressure testing of the east side of the drain field, and it was impressive. It was impressive to see how the design came together and how you know, the tubing was jetting the water out. So it looks like once it gets completed, they were going to fill in the east side of that drain field and begin construction on the west side of the drain field later this week. So with that minor setback, that's where we're at on the construction project. You know, we're going to be digging back there behind the building a little bit more, and hopefully the project will be completed before the first of the new year, January 1st.
All right, thank you very much. So this last item, school board calendar ideas.
So there's discussion on that?
Nope, no discussion. Because there's no discussion because there's no vote here.
Right,
This
well, this is about
information.
taxpayer money, and I do
I'm
believe
sorry,
there's a
there's
law on
not
that.
going to be any discussion. Public is allowed to comment on, after there's a motion to do something. There is no motion to do anything here.
So with respect to taxpayer money on a big
I'm
job
sorry.
like this, when would I address questions in
You'd have to
public?
come to the next board meeting and talk in public comment.
You don't answer questions in public comment.
I know we don't, so I'm sorry, but we're not having any public comment or discussion now. We're going on to the next part of the meeting.
Trustees ask questions?
No, we're going on to the next part of the meeting. Okay? All right. So, this last item, we discussed at the last meeting, and we approved the idea of developing a board calendar. And so, Mr. McGee and Ms. Morgan and I are gonna do that. I just, again, wanna ask everybody if they have something specific that they think should be on that. Please get in touch with one of the three of us, because we're gonna start developing that calendar.
I couldn't find mine, I don't know if Vicki has a copy or.
This one?
Yeah, she has an
Oh,
old one.
that's the one.
Yeah, she has that old one.
That's the one I
So-
have.
So we're gonna incorporate that.
Yeah, that's got a lot of
Yeah.
good stuff in it.
Yeah, so, we'll be setting a, just kind of an informal pencil, paper session to get that started, and then we'll bring it back to the board. So, thank you very much, meeting adjourned.
Is that an information only, trying to make a comment?
Information only.
It says here, move to adopt a master facility that requires an action.
We already did it last meeting, and we just approved the last meeting minutes, so we did it last meeting, so.